a pivot and rebrand a Pinterest account today when your business has
Yes.
changed? It's a common question we get. So we thought we'd
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah. I get this question all the time, and I'm sure you do too. This is kind of a continuation from the live that we did 2 weeks ago when we talked
Mhm.
about how whether you should start a new Pinterest profile for your new business or if you should convert your personal profile or pivot an old business profile to fit your new business. Because even though these are very related, they're kind of two different questions. So this week we're going to address um, what I see as, and there's probably some steps that I'm not thinking of, you'll fill in the gaps, but I think of it as like 5 steps to take a Pinterest profile that is not a good fit for your business anymore and
Mhm.
pivot and brand it, right?
Yep.
Every time I say pivot, I think of Friends. Pivot, but we're
We just moved.
pivoting oh, you just moved a couch?
We just moved our huge heavy leather
Were
couch in
you
our living
yelling
room.
pivot the whole time? Or were you yelling it
No,
the whole time?
we we weren't screaming, but I was trying to get my husband to pivot like another way to get the leg out the door, and he wasn't. I
Right?
was like, "You got to go that way."
Pivot. But yeah, so we're pivoting, profiles, right?
Yeah.
So some examples that I've seen of this, like I've seen a lot of times it's like I'll have a health coach who had a health coaching business to consumer, in a certain niche. Like maybe she was a gut health coach, for people who, struggle with gut health. And then after maybe 4 or 5 years in business, she started taking on business coaching clients to help them create their, health coaching businesses. This happens often enough, right? And in different niches too. And then now her profile is all about gut health, but actually she wants to kind of pivot it, right? Or rebrand it to be about her new business, which is about helping people start health coaching businesses. So that would be an example I've seen. I don't know if you have any examples you want to throw out, but that's the kind of thing we're really talking about is changing your profile to fit your new business. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was coughing. I still feel like I haven't gotten it out, but
Hmm.
we'll continue. So I've had similar instances where, not for myself because I've just always created the new accounts like we talked about 2 weeks ago, but where I've worked with clients and their offers just completely changed, or
Right.
they just stopped writing about one entire topic
Yep.
altogether and needed to peel that out of their Pinterest account, which
Right.
I don't talk about Trello anymore, but if it's not so far off of what we're talking about currently, so I talk a lot about ClickUp and Notion these days, I personally would just leave it there and not worry about it too much, but other people might just want to make it go away.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's there's no like crystal clear perfect answer, but I've kind of broken it down into what I think are 5 steps. So maybe we can kind of tackle those. And of course, there's always going to
Yeah.
be little nuances along the way. But yeah, so I'll start with step 1 if that makes sense to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
No one's going to be shocked by my step 1 if they know me. Step 1 is just like if you were creating a new profile, to take a step back and do some fresh keyword research.
Yeah.
So now that let's use our health coach turned business coach as an example. Now that your current profile is really centered around gut health and digestion and probiotics and all the things that people look for that have to do with gut health. And what we need to do now is we need to develop a keyword plan for your new business, right? So basically, the process that I like to follow is brainstorming what you think people are searching for in different categories, and then going into Pinterest and doing your keyword research. I teach how to do that in Pinterest with Purpose. I know you teach that in your membership, and you have some high-level videos about how to do it here on the YouTube channel.
Hmm.
Keyword research isn't hard. I know everyone's like, oh, it doesn't sound so fun, but it's really, really important. So that's definitely going to be step 1, is figuring out what keywords do you now want to be found for,
Yeah.
right? So now you want to be found for, let's say, starting a coaching business, starting a health coaching business, health coach marketing. I happen to know a lot of the keywords in that area because I have a lot of boards myself around
Yep.
marketing health coach businesses because that's who I serve, right? In my Pinterest and in my content strategy courses and offers. but basically coming up with a new list of keywords that you want to add into your profile. That's like the first step in the process, is doing a little bit of fresh keyword research. We can drop some links to some resources for you to kind of learn how to do that, and some other videos for places to learn about that. But that's really the first step, I think, is getting clear on what the vision is for the new profile. And then once you know what your vision is, where you want to get your profile, right here, it's now at A, you want to get it maybe to L, then you can start to kind of plot the plan for doing the pivot and getting it to where you want it to be, but you need to know where you want to go first. So knowing where you want to go is really, and on Pinterest, since it's a search engine, about knowing what you want to be found for. What are people searching for that you now want to be found for that you weren't focusing on before? What searches do you want to capture, if you want to think about it that way? So.
I want to share a really quick tip because it has really helped me to speed along not only my keyword research, but how well like honed in on the keywords I, really want to target for myself and clients lately. More so for clients, because that's, Pinterest marketing and trends just isn't well expanded. But I've been using the trends tool lately, and there's actually a way that you can, with all your filters, you can actually click an export button and it'll export it to a CSV file with the filters that you preset. And then I'm literally just taking those keywords and that's my list. And that's what we're really focusing on. So I've been doing that for about a year for a client, an existing client of mine. And we took her from 0 to hero in about 6 months for impressions and clicks and saves. Like she really just like skyrocketed. So
our favorite word, but it's true in this case, right?
It really is true in this case. So I just want to encourage you, like if you're having trouble with that search bar and you're just not sure what to type in, maybe just go to trends and use what's already populated for you based on what Pinterest is telling you people are looking for right there in the tool.
I have so many questions about that for you, but I think we should schedule another live so that we don't get too far off track of this one, because otherwise people tuning in now and later will be like, what the heck? We weren't, we want to know how to pivot. We want to know how to pivot. But yeah, I'd love to learn more about that. And I just have questions. So maybe we can consider that in our content plan. If there's anyone who is watching on the replay or live now who is interested in that topic, let us know. I mean, I think we're going to do it, but let us know if it's something that you really want us to talk more about in detail in another video. Sounds good, Heather. Sounds like a great strategy. Cool.
What's step 2, Jenna?
Okay. So once you know where you want to take your account to, once you have that vision, I think the next step is to refresh some of your profile basics. It can be kind of fun, and it gets you kind of in the mode of thinking about, what, like, it's kind of a quick, but also fulfilling, or what's the word, like satisfying kind of step, right? So refreshing your profile photo can be really good, because chances are, if you are pivoting, you may have some new brand photos, or you may want to just use a new one. So that's always a good idea. And then uploading a single image cover photo to your profile with a call to action. That's something that we talk about a lot. A new call to action that, again, is aligned with what you want people to do now, based on where your business is at now. I like to use a lead magnet for that. Long story short, we've had conversations and videos about that. We can drop some resources for how to do that. I have a template for a cover image that's really good. Updating your profile name and your bio. And because you did that keyword research, you can make sure that when you update your profile name and your bio, now you can incorporate keywords in the right places, because we do incorporate keywords into the profile name, which is something that a lot of people skip by accident, and it's really, really powerful. So you don't want to skip that. And we also incorporate keywords into your bio. And there's artful ways to do this. You want to make sure you're doing it based on best practices and artfully, not keyword stuffing. But updating some of those, I think, profile basics is step 2. And I like using it as step 2, because then it sets that scene and kind of gets you excited to do the next pieces, which are a little bit more involved. So that's kind of like the fun part of the pivot.
I do love the rebrand, and that's the part of the rebrand conversation that I am in, that I was talking to you about privately. My travel blog isn't really pivoting in topic so much as we're adding a layer. So there is a minor pivot in topic. We're not talking about a motorhome anymore. We have a camper and a Jeep. So aspect of travel has pivoted, but the topic of the profile is remaining the same.
Right.
But there is a huge rebrand happening, and my, uh, creative director or whatever you want to call her, she's edits my YouTube videos, she makes all my thumbnails, like she does all my graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
She did the rebrand. So I'm in the
Nice.
middle of like she's finalizing that actually right now. She just sent me in Slack. I saw the new logo come through.
Mm-hmm.
She's like working on all of that so I can do the new banner and the board covers and update that profile
Yeah.
photo and the pin
Yeah.
templates.
I love that. So like the visual branding part of pivoting the profile, I think, yeah, it's kind of fun for a lot of people. And that's what people probably think of when they think of rebranding the profile. They don't think of
Yeah.
the keyword research stuff, but that's a great example. And they're like of how there's different nuances. Like you may be switching your business from one thing to another, or like you said, you may be adding another layer of something to your business that you haven't done before. So
Yeah.
that's a great example of that. So cool.
The fun part for everybody. But the fun
Yeah.
part comes because you did the maybe not as fun part in step one. And
Well, and
then,
also, right. I always say
you
like,
know,
the keyword research isn't super sexy, but the results you get when you do the keyword research and you do it right are pretty sexy, right?
right. So my client I was just telling you guys about a second ago, we went from 0 to hero in 6 months. It might have been a little bit less that we had, you know, gotten 300,000 views, which is super hard
Mm.
for most people.
Yeah, these days. Yeah.
Even on my
Depends on the
Pinterest
niche, but
marketing, yeah,
mhm.
my Pinterest marketing Pinterest account, I can't crack 50 most weeks and
Yeah, these
months.
days I can't either. And I remember when we were all up around 200, 300, 400, 500, the whole,
Yeah,
monthly views for anyone who's listening. Number one, we don't put a lot of stock in that number, but also number two, I think Pinterest has really like moved the target a lot as far as how they calculate that. And it never really has mattered much anyway for those of us for whom conversions is more important. So,
yeah,
but yeah. So anyway, but she did see a big increase in impressions in addition to some of those other metrics that are
yeah.
important when you made those changes.
I can't remember where I was going with that,
I
but
totally, I
oh,
derailed you. Sorry.
before, no, no, no. What I was going to say is before she hired me, it was like 7,000 views, no saves,
Mm,
no outbound clicks. And then once I took over and we really started
mhm.
being consistent and it wasn't just videos being repurposed, we were repurposing those videos with purpose, with
Mhm.
intention, connecting
Yeah.
them to Pinterest user needs. That's when we really started to see that difference.
Hmm.
But I think that really lends nicely to step three, I think we're on, which
Hmm.
is
Yep.
taking all of the information that you did in step one, all that keyword research, and updating boards or and adding new boards even,
Yeah. Yep.
refreshing your descriptions.
Yep. Yeah. In my mind, I kind of divide those into like steps 3 and 4. So step 3 is evaluating your current Pinterest boards for relevancy.
Yeah. Oh, that's a
Um,
good point.
and I think breaking it into 2 steps instead of one just helps to kind of make it feel less overwhelming for people. Because a lot of people who, especially if they have a lot of boards, which, some people do, can feel really overwhelming. So step 1 is just to go through all the boards and evaluate them for relevancy. So basically what that means is like, is this now relevant to my new business? That's all.
Yeah.
And then making that judgment call. And it is a judgment call and there's some subjectivity to it. And, we can talk about that if people have questions about it, but just, setting some criteria in your head, deciding, going through each one, and then just taking any boards that are personal or off topic for your new business and either making them secret or archiving them. And that way you're not having to do multiple things at once because the next step is going to be making changes to the ones that are left over that are still there. But I think by
Yeah.
going through and just like decluttering and getting rid of, if you will, which, and I don't mean deleting, but I just mean archiving or making secret, the ones that are no longer as relevant. Um, it just helps your brain, I think, to then, do the next step with like a cleaner, not a clean slate, but a cleaner slate. And we talked
I
about this
have,
a little bit last week, Heather, but I think it's worth mentioning at this point, like why it's important to do this, because some people feel some resistance to cleaning up their boards. They think, well,
mhm,
they're just hanging out there, even if they're not relevant to my business. Doesn't it show people that I'm like a multi-passionate person? And like if I have no, if my business has nothing to do with my kids, but I have a whole board with like birthday party ideas for kids, like why can't I keep it there? Because then moms will relate to me.
yeah.
And I get that, but you know, it's important to remember again that Pinterest is a search engine, not social media. I don't know, do you ever
Yeah.
get that resistance from people, and how do you help them get over it and do what they need to do?
I have people in one of two camps, and I briefly
Mm,
touched on this earlier. One camp is, I just don't want to see these boards anymore. These pins are no longer relevant to my business. I don't want them. I want to delete everything. If that's
yeah.
the case, I would honestly just encourage you to start a new account, because you're never going to get rid of the pins that other people have saved. You can only hide your
Mhm.
own that
Right.
you pinned initially. And then the other camp are, the ones that just kind of want to leave everything there because it is what it is. But at the end
Mhm.
of the day, it does come down to Pinterest relevancy, Pinterest understanding what your account is about, who you serve, how you serve them, what keywords they need to rank you for.
Mhm.
And if you're pinning about motherhood and cooking and coaching for wellness entrepreneurs and crypto, Pinterest isn't going to know what to do with you.
Yeah, and your Hawaii vacation and
Yeah,
you know, the stuff that your business used to be about, like all those things. Exactly. Pinterest won't know what to do with you. And in practical terms, what that means is Pinterest won't know who to show your pins to. Though it
yeah,
won't know like which ones are actually about your business. It won't understand who you want to get in front of, who your content is a good match for.
yeah.
And that's problematic. And it's not just the pins, it's the board titles and the board descriptions that send that information. So
Mhm.
in these steps that we're talking about, I think it's steps 3 and 4. It's really about helping Pinterest better understand what your boards are about and also what your account is about and what the pins that are on that board are about, because Pinterest considers the board that you've put the pin on as well, so that Pinterest can more easily show your content to people who are more of an ideal client type of person for you. Because that's what we
Yeah.
all want. We all want to get found by the right target people.
Mhm.
And we're making it harder for Pinterest to help us do that if we have a bunch of boards that are no longer relevant and we haven't been willing to secret them or archive them. It's like Pinterest is out there like Jerry Maguire yelling, "Help me, help
I
you." So help Pinterest help you.
was actually on a public call recently. It was one of their webinars, and they had actually mentioned something along
Pinterest
these
webinar?
lines. Yeah, one of the employees in their one of the webinars actually mentioned this concept of like only create boards about the things that you want to be found for and known
Be known
for.
for and be found for. Yeah.
I was actually shocked.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that too, because they don't normally offer that kind of pointed advice.
Yeah,
Not that's the kind of advice that you and I and people who we know and respect that teach Pinterest talk about, but Pinterest typically kind of tiptoes around, which is fine. It's just not really their role in the world. But to say that, it's pretty good, pretty dialed in there, Pinterest employee. Good job.
yeah.
Good job.
I think they've been watching some of our content.
Yep.
Probably.
Yes, ma'am. Yep, yep. Mostly yours.
Mostly mine.
Uh-huh.
Um, Step four
Which,
then was
which I like to
really,
think that I influence a little bit, but
yeah, you do.
mhm.
Totally. Step four was really kind of strategically creating some new boards. So if, in case you guys
Right,
missed that, the
right,
nuance between step three and step four. I
right.
have a really hot tip if you don't mind,
Of course.
because a lot of people get really distracted by all the metrics and everything that are coming out of their pins on their boards. So as you're
Yeah.
looking at your profile, you see all this stuff and it's just a lot.
Hmm.
And I have gotten this process down where I actually, when I'm auditing a profile to redo it, which I'm in the process of doing a few of those right now, I actually take all the boards and I just quickly go through them and I just open them all up in tabs. And then each tab is a board open.
Hmm.
And I quickly grab the title, the description, and the URL for the board.
Hmm.
And I put all three of those things in a spreadsheet.
Hmm.
Right now, I'm dealing with a profile that has 75 boards. So
Mm,
many. There are
it's a lot.
6 different boards that are actually duplicates or triplicates.
Oh,
So as I'm like working through this, I'm doing it in a spreadsheet. I don't have this desired, oh, well, that pin template is ugly, or oh, these pins got a lot of saves. Like, let me just go and rabbit hole myself over here into this thing. I can just laser focus in on those boards.
So you're
what my
just kind of
current,
like opening them in a new tab and just looking only at those, right?
and then I just kind of put them in a spreadsheet and close them all out. And then
Hmm.
I take that keyword research, I analyze the current boards, determine if I need to add any new boards, and I can see it just in a quick list. And then I can work on those descriptions and the description updates in the same spot. So I'm not
Yeah,
worrying about maybe losing internet or, oh, that didn't save. What was that description again? Let me have to like waste
right.
my
Or
time to
having a pin
rewrite
catch your
this.
eye or anything like that.
Yeah. And then I'd be
Yeah.
taking it a step further, Jana,
Mhm.
because I built a pin bot on ChatGPT.
Ooh.
And I've been downloading that spreadsheet, uploading it
Mhm.
to ChatGPT and asking it to provide keyword suggestions. Then I'll
Mhm.
match those to Pinterest.
Yep.
Then going back and telling it to please rewrite these Pinterest board descriptions
With those
and
keywords.
with those keywords.
Hmm.
And it's just been firing it out. Like we got
Good.
a profile
Good
updated
workflow.
in 4.5 hours instead of 8, the 75 boards.
Hmm.
Would have taken me double the time.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I love hearing how people are using AI inside their individual service-based businesses and programs to make
Mhm.
things better because it takes a lot of experimentation, but once you hit in a workflow like what you just described, that's so good. Another
Yeah.
totally would be a great video for us to do.
Yeah.
Um, but like you said, step 4 is like the continuation where basically you now you're looking at what boards you have left after you've gotten rid of any that are, when I say gotten rid of, again, I mean archive and secret, not
Archive or
delete.
hide.
And comparing that, you mentioned this already, but just to really pull it out so people understand what this step is about, comparing that to your keyword list and saying, okay, where are the gaps? And then strategically creating some new boards that fill those gaps, right?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, you know what? We skipped ahead. I'm sorry. That was the last step. The step in between was also looking at the existing boards that you've left, that you've said, yes, these are still relevant, and looking for opportunities where you can update those existing board titles and descriptions with new keywords
Mhm.
from your list. So sometimes it's about like re-keywording a board to match up with the new way that you're like the new themes and topics that you have and the new content strategy that you have.
Yeah.
And that's interesting too, just to mention the content strategy, because really what we're talking about is having a keyword list that matches your new content strategy. And if you have a new business or you're pivoting your business, chances are you
Mhm.
also have a new content strategy or you've done some work or you need to do some work to pivot your content strategy. And so, given that that's the other main focus of both of my business and your business, Pinterest marketing and content strategy, it's an interesting little tie in there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last two steps is updating existing boards that you've left there, right? And then the last one is filling in the gaps with new boards based on what's not represented on your profile now that is on your keyword list.
Yeah. Beautiful. And then Pinterest lived happily ever after.
The end.
The end.
Bye. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I do have an article on my blog called How to Clean Up Your Pinterest Boards. It's the 5 steps.
Oh,
It kind of leaves out the keyword research part because that's like a different set of blogs, but it lists
yeah.
the steps and gives more detail about like exactly how I go about doing that once you get into those like steps like 2 through 5 that we just listed. So I'll make sure I add that to the description of this video along with some other resources that'll be helpful for people who are rebranding or pivoting. One thing I wanted to bring up, Heather, maybe you could speak to this because you're the more techie of the two of us,
Mhm.
is a lot of times people ask us like, well, what if I'm changing my URL? And this is a tricky question, but I think we should at least address it to the best of our ability in this video in case anyone is thinking that, because they may be. Sometimes when you change your brand, when you're rebranding your business or pivoting your
Yeah.
business, you change the name of your URL. We would prefer that you didn't as Pinterest strategists, but sometimes it's inevitable. So
Yeah.
what do we need to do in those situations?
So if you're changing your website URL from, heatherfarris.com to heathersmaidenname.com, then you need to have your web developer or whoever maintains your website, or you're going to have to do it yourself, set up a 301 redirect for all of your past URLs to forward to all your new URLs. And if done correctly, you shouldn't see a major upset. You might see some upsets in your Google rankings initially as those are then situated.
Mhm.
And you might notice a drop off temporarily in your Pinterest impressions, as well as Pinterest now understands that this is the same domain, but it's new and now it's claimed and it's changed, but it's really technically the same. Like those things might happen, and just be prepared, but you really
Mhm.
do need to do that 301 redirect. Unless for some reason you're just changing your URL and you're getting rid of everything in the former business. So when I got rid of the Balanced Mamas, which was my original mom blog, I just turned the domain off. I unpublished the website. I
Mhm.
removed the URL out of the Pinterest profile. I still have all those pins on my Pinterest profile, but now that URL redirects to heatherfarris.com.
Right, right. So you still own the domain.
Yeah, and I
That's
always
the
will.
thing. Right. Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of confusion around this. One thing that's important to note is that when you say 301 redirect, the best way to do it isn't to go in and redirect every single link one by one by one. It's to do what we call
Mhm.
a global redirect, where basically you're telling your old website to forward everything to the new website, and then anytime there's like a janaomedia.com/exclusive emails, it'll automatically redirect to, whatever the new brand name is. Let's say I changed it to highleveragecontent.com/ um, exclusive emails. So that's a
Yeah,
global redirect that can be done by, a developer or somebody who's tech savvy. I'm sure you could probably figure it out, Heather. I could not.
yeah.
Which is thank God for Sky, my amazing developer, because I know she could.
She is fantastic.
Yeah, she's so good. So now I'm thinking about Sky. But the other way to think about it, and sometimes if you can't do a global redirect, you can go into your settings or your analytics and see what like your top 10 performing pins are and do individual 301 redirects for each of those. There are some downsides to this though, and you mentioned it. Pinterest doesn't love redirects in general, so the global redirect is going to work better than individual, one by one by one 301 redirects over the long haul. But there's
Yeah.
a lot to consider there, and this video isn't by any means a discussion that is, what do
No.
you call it, like complete or exhaustive. And we highly recommend that you consult with a developer. And by the way, we recommend you do that early so that you're not hustling at the end to be like, oh no, I forgot all my pins, are now going to dead links. And I wish I had talked to a developer 6 months ago when I started this project. Like, if you're
Yeah.
working with a developer, which you probably are, if you're changing your domain, make sure they know that you've got a lot of Pinterest pins out there, and make sure they understand that, because not every developer understands that. I had a client once who said to me, well, my developer knew, but she said that once we did everything, we could just go in and change all the URLs on the Pinterest pins. And I'm like, no, like you can do that on some Pinterest pins, but it can cause high performing pins to stop performing sometimes. And then number two, you kind of hinted at this earlier, you can't change the URLs on other people's pins that they've pinned that were yours. So
Yeah.
if I have a pin and Jane Smith repinned it to her board, and that's the version of the pin that's high performing for me, which often happens, right?
Hmm.
Because Pinterest sees it as a good indicator. If someone puts it on their board, Pinterest is like, ooh, that must be good content because people like it.
Yeah.
That might be the version of the pin that is your legacy pin, which is legacy pin is a term that we use in Pinterest that kind of substitutes for virality, because we go for legacy pins, those pins that just keep giving and giving for months and years. But you can't change the URL on that even if you wanted to, because that's not your pin, it's her pin, Jane's pin, even though it goes to your website. So you're not going to be able to go in and change that pin,
Nope.
from janaomedia.com/ whatever to high leverage content / whatever. So you do need a redirect in that case, and your developer needs to know that you're going to need redirects. So just be careful is, I guess, our advice about that. If you're changing your domain and you have a lot of, if you count on Pinterest traffic, you got to really
Yeah.
think it through.
Yep. I love that. Something else that should be worth mentioning in this kind of redirect conversation is having a 404 page so people don't actually land on a dead page. If you do have a dead links on your website, at least set
Yeah.
your 404 page settings up, and then have some links on your 404 page that
Go
redirect people
elsewhere.
back to
Yep.
you know, your homepage, your current offers, whatever it is.
Yeah. What's on your 404 page?
You know, honestly, I'm not sure because I
Okay,
don't
that's all
think I've
right.
ever actually seen it.
I know on mine it says something like, oops, you landed on a page that no longer exists, but maybe you're here because you'd like to learn about Pinterest. If so, here's my free Pinterest marketing masterclass link. Or maybe you'd like to read my blog, head here to read, my most popular articles. And I think it redirects to like my tag for like popular content or something like that.
I
So
just
there's
type it
at least
in.
things people can do to continue engaging with you.
I have my developer, the girl that did my website, did my free strategy guide, my free resource page, and my homepage.
Yeah.
But my menu bar is still across the top. So, you know,
Yep,
that's
there's
also
always that.
available.
Right, right. But I think, that helps you in two ways. Number one, it helps with the customer journey. So people don't go, well, that was
Mhm.
dumb, like I got nothing. But it also helps Pinterest helps with your Pinterest like domain authority. Because what Pinterest doesn't want to see, and Pinterest can tell what's going on, is a
Yeah.
bunch of people landing on all these dead links and then bouncing immediately. So
Mhm.
if they see they're landing on this link, but then they're clicking on another link, to go to your free training or to go to your most popular content or whatever it is that you're offering them at that point, that is going to mitigate that circumstance. So that is a really good strategy if you're changing your domain and you want to kind of cover some bases and continue to have a good domain authority with Pinterest.
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome tip.
Yeah,
This has been a thick one. Woo, we've covered a lot of stuff.
we did. And
Thick.
this is actually going to be really great to turn into a blog post and to live here on the channel because I get these questions a lot. And I
Yeah.
know you do
Yep, yep.
too. So we can take this content and we can repurpose it, Jana.
Love it. I love it. And I love turning anything into a blog, especially if
Yeah.
it answers people's questions.
Mm,
Because blog posts that answer people's questions are good on many counts. I was just thinking about reusing the email that I sent out a while ago that says like what I do when people ask me for free advice because and you and I were talking about this a couple weeks ago too. I think that it's so great to have this library of content where instead of having
mm,
to be like, oh, okay, I'll leave a couple of Instagram DMs letting that person know what the basic answer to their question is.
yeah.
Instead, I can just say, oh, I have a blog post that covers that. And
Mhm.
it's a win-win because the person gets a much more detailed answer than you
Yeah.
just like being like, okay, here's the basics. Like, I don't have time to leave you the whole answer and I don't owe you anything for, you know what I mean? But and we're just going to give you what you a little bit so that I feel good about being generous. Instead, you can be generous with lots of, detailed information. And obviously, if you have things set up properly, that person will probably get into your funnels because they'll opt into something on your website, like to get onto your email
Mhm.
list or whatnot. So it's a win-win in that case. But that was a little tangent.
I love it. That's what I'm going to do.
You do it
With
already.
this, it's just so slow. Like the turnaround time from YouTube video to blog post is
Yeah. But this is a great example. So just to
painfully
like really
slow.
connect the dots here, to
Yeah.
connect the dots here, next time Heather gets a question or I get a question from someone saying like, oh, I'm rebranding, like what do I need to do about my Pinterest? Or like, what's the best way? Should I just start a new profile? Or like, it seems like it's really overwhelming to have to change everything on my Pinterest profile. I used to send people to my blog post, and I'll still do that, but now I also can send
Mhm.
them to this video and say, if you prefer learning via video, like here's a really good discussion that Heather and I had that will reveal a lot of considerations that you probably didn't think about, or and need to if you're going to pivot your profile. So
Yeah. No, it's so good. I love this conversation. And I just went over and checked a couple of my URLs to see about the redirects because I own a considerable amount of
Mhm.
very strategic URLs and they're if you ever were to visit them, they're going to redirect to three places:
Mhm.
heatherfarris.com, Pin Profit Academy, or um, I have one of them that doesn't actually redirect. It's just a sales page. I love that cup of
Mhm.
ambition.
I know I'm showing off my mug, cup of ambition. Stumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour
I
myself a
love
cup
her.
of ambition. Okay, sorry.
Thank you for serenading me with Dolly. I love
Yawn
her.
and stretch and try to come to life. Love Dolly.
When we're in person again in September, I expect you to be serenading me at least once a day with that song.
I just thought of something really cool. You know what we could do? I'm just
What?
going to say this so that we can continue the conversation privately. My mom only lives like an hour from Dollywood. We should like go and like stay in my mom's cabin and go to Dollywood because I don't think Marshall wants to.
That would be so fun. Do you think your
Wouldn't
mom
it?
would mind if I came along?
No. Oh my God. Oh my God. No, she would love it. She would love it. Okay. Anyway,
That's
no
so
one wants to hear
funny.
about that. We do already have a trip planned, though. We have a trip planned coming up pretty soon in September. We're going to be
We do.
heading to Jordan Gill's Make Your Mark live event together,
Which is the
Heather and
last one for
I.
a while.
The last what?
Did you see that
Oh,
email?
the last
It's
Make
the
Your Mark.
last event
Yeah.
she's gonna hold.
She's saying she's not going to do it again the following year. Yeah. It's going to be fabulous. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be really good.
So,
I'm just excited to see you and see
well,
everybody.
next week we will be back for regular scheduled programming. Just last week we had some upsets with schedules and Jana had some family coming into town, so we really needed to postpone. It happens. So we are talking about what next week? Who knows? Not
I will
me.
know tonight when I schedule some lives. We will be here.
Oh,
We with few exceptions, we are here every Wednesday
yeah.
at noon Eastern time. And sometimes we have these pre-scheduled in big blocks, but right now we don't have any pre-scheduled. We will soon. So anytime you can visit the live tab on Heather's YouTube channel, and when there are live scheduled, you can hit the notify me button for any of the topics that interest you.
Mhm.
And slash, or you can plan to just always join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon Eastern time.
Fantastic. So we are talking about should you use AI to write marketing content or just ideate and
Cool.
brainstorm? So that'll actually be a really timely conversation because I packaged the pin bot for sale this morning and I should have it
Oh, how exciting.
live in the store
Oh my God,
hopefully
that's
by next week.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's exciting. I want to hear more about that. That's perfect. That way next week I can pick your brain a little about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will talk to all of you next week. And just before we go, Gillian says, "Good singing voice, Jana. Looking forward to your first music release." She's
If
a
I
really
could
good
only
voice.
dance, I'd be on Broadway, but I can't.
All right. Well, we'll see you again next week.
Ooh,
Bye for now.
bye, everybody.
Sweet. And we're out. That's going to be a good one.